Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary, and not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi, welcome back. From the New York Post. Eric Adams sues to ensure a fair election process after Board of Election botches vote count. Yeah. Wait a minute. Only Trump supporters and right-wing nuts and just anti-democratic people that want to keep minorities down and keep them from voting and voter suppression and Jim Crow 2.0 and wait a minute. He is a liberal Democrat and he happens to be black. I believe he was former New York Police Department chief and president of Brooklyn Bureau President. Say that 3 times fast. Wait a minute. Are these... Wait, no, it can't be. They can't be hypocrites. There's no way. Now, see, I side with Eric Adams on this. I do, as we read the story. But I would love to see if maybe somebody can dig it up when people were raising hell concerning the last year's election. I can't go into too much detail because this video will get banned from YouTube. I wonder what Mr. Adams' opinion was on all of that. Be interesting to see if he made any public comments. Anyway, let's read on. What's good for me and not for thee? That's the expression I was trying to think of. Mayoral candidate in Brooklyn, Borough President Eric Adams, filed a preemptive lawsuit Wednesday to ensure a fair and transparent election process. Sorry, I gave it 2 laughs on that one. And I'm going to make fun of this whole thing because it is comical. After the Board of Elections botched the June 22nd primary outcome by accidentally including test results in the vote count, leading to 135,000 extra ballots. Wait a minute. Well, what happened was, as we all know in New York City, the Democratic primary, just like Chicago and many other big cities, is the general election because the Republican could never win. Now, knowing that, as the night went on, Mr. Adams saw he was, I think it was 10, 12 points up. And all of a sudden, he was like within 2, and he went, wait a minute. That can't be right. And they say, well, that's the way it is, sir. You're just going to have to live with it. And he went, wait a minute, that's not true. And he brought attention to it because he noticed. Now, what would have happened if him or his people or his campaign or anybody that any importance in New York had said nothing? He would have got screwed over. But they did. They put it accidentally testing vote results of 135,000. Today we petition the court to preserve our right to a fair process and have a judge oversee and review ballots if necessary, Adams said in a statement. What? Whoa, wait a minute. This is Jim Crow 2.0. You're trying to take low-income people, black people. This has been going on for decades. White people have tried to suppress the black vote. Oh, wait a minute. New York City is a minority majority. The majority of people in New York are non-white. So you're trying to suppress 3/3 of them. 3/3, that's a good one. 2/3, 75%. How can that be? Well, maybe because he might be right. I don't agree with the guy's politics, but he's definitely no dummy. We're notifying the other campaigns of our lawsuit through personal service as required by law because they are interested parties. We invite the other campaigns to join us, petition the court as we all seek a clear and trust conclusion to this election, he added. Yeah. Yeah, all the people that are trying to win are going to say, yeah, Eric. Dun, 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 dun. I wish I had the sound effects for the charge. Dun, dun, dun. Let's all go in and make sure this is fair. But if we can finagle it somehow where you lose and I win, but I'll do that. I'll fall on my sword for you because it's important that be free and fair and not have any tampering with in any way. So let's join Eric. Yeah, that's going to happen, right? I'm afraid not. That's not going to happen. And all of a sudden, you get all these articles all over the place. His Trump-like persona, how he's questioning election results, and he's just like Trump, and he's just like the Republicans, and he wants more police instead of less, and he doesn't want to defund the police. He used to be, for Christ's sake, he used to be the New York City Police Department chief, I believe. Of course he doesn't want to cut police, you morons, and he said so from day one. That's the only reason why I give Guy any credibility at all. Plus, he's a sharp guy. He's no dummy. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not a New York City resident. I live in upstate New York, which is might as well be Mars compared to Earth. But I'll take Eric Adams over Bill de Blasio. Holy crap, all day long. All the choices, I don't like any of the choices if I was a New York resident, but it's none of my business. I don't live there. But unfortunately for me, I live in New York State. See, New York City runs this state. It's a deep blue state, even though 95% of the physical territory of it is red. Welcome to deep blue state world, i.e. just like Illinois, just like California, and other deep blue states that the vast majority don't live in the big cities. Let's look on here and just show some people voting. It's amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing to me. And now Mr. Adams, and I've seen many articles, you can look them up, is getting all kinds of crap. And I say Mr. Adams because I got to show the guy respect. He was a lifer in the police department. He's the president of Brooklyn Borough. Brooklyn Borough president, I should say, is more accurate. Yeah, I don't like what he believes at all. But the guy believes in strong law enforcement. Okay. I don't think he's going to do all this crap the other cities do and make them back down. Crime is out of control. Of course, Mr. Adams won. Of course, Eric Adams won. The vast majority of people in New York City, including non-whites, and by the way, like I said, it's majority-minority there, do not want to defund the police. It's a small group that controls things. It always has been that way. And John said, oh, come on, that's not true. This is a republic. Democracies, majority rules. No. Not at all. Let's go through American history. The American Revolution. Less than 25% were for the revolution. Roughly 50% said, I don't know, I don't give a damn either way, just leave me alone. And the rest of them were loyalists. Majority had no say. No say at all. Do you think in Germany in the 1930s, the Nazis were a tiny percent, and they were at the end of the war as well. The majority had zero say about where things went. The Democrat Party, who's controlled basically 17, 18, 19%, depending on what poll you see, is controlled by the progressive morons. What about the other 80%? They had nothing to say. So majority doesn't rule. It's the ones that try to have grab the most power, have the biggest mouths. Those are the ones that are in control. Do you think when the Russia fell and the Tsar was executed and his family, that the Bolsheviks were the majority in Russia? Bullshit. They were a tiny minority. But once they grabbed power, then they became the majority because they can control everything. And this is what Democrats do. You can go through example after example after example. Do you really, truly think in the Islamic world that the vast majority of Muslims are just anti-American terrorists? Of course not. But who controls a lot of those places? The minority, because they have power. So whoever's in power is the majority, whether they have it or not. And this is what's happening here. This is what they're trying. Will guys like Mr. Adams maybe put a monkey wrench in that? I really don't know. But I know he'd be a hell of a lot better mayor than Bill de Blasio, and that's a pretty low bar, and I'm not putting down Eric Adams when I say that. I hope things come around for New York. I really do. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be a New York resident, but even if I didn't live in New York, I would still want them to make out. Why would I want people to be miserable? Why would I want people's lives to be ruined? Why would I want lives to be lost? Why would I want crime to increase in my country? I don't care what color it is. Who's getting murdered or not? It doesn't matter what color they are. They're all Americans. I just wish they would pick a different ideology to help them out of that. But in New York, it's not going to happen. We're not going to get a Rudolph. We're not going to get a Giuliani. It's not going to happen anymore. And if I'm old enough to remember it, if you don't, your younger people, look it up. In the 70s, New York was so freaking bad. Times Square was a nightmare. It had to get so bad before somebody like Giuliani could win. That's the problem with progressive Democrats, liberal Democrats. When they see that their policies or their practices are not working, not only not working, they're causing way more harm than good. They will simply not admit it until it's so painfully obvious to 90% plus in this case, New York City, before they change their mind. Because that is the number one flaw in progressive Democrats and liberal thinking. Their number one flaw is this. It's very simple. And Jordan Peterson says this much more eloquently than I do. Their problem is this. We see a problem. We think government can be the solution, which very rarely happens, but we'll go along with the whole premise. We're going to put in a law, a policy, or a practice that's going to solve this problem, at least for the most part. And nothing else is going to happen. No other harm can happen, only this. They never, ever, ever consider that their policies or practices can flip back over on them and cause way more harm than good. They never consider that ever. And when it does happen, it's somebody else's fault, or circumstances weren't right, or the program wasn't big enough, or, pick 20 different reasons why it didn't work. It was never because the policy was bad, ever. And that's the fatal flaw in their brains and their ideology. They can never admit that what they're thinking on a particular topic can possibly be wrong. We'll see what Mr. Adams does. I hope he cleans up New York. So I'll tell you the truth, honestly, I live in upstate. I know this is going to sound like a terrible thing to say, but it's changing a lot of our cities up here as people are being driven out of New York, economically as well as crime-wise. It's affecting us up here. This is a very red area in upstate New York. I live in Binghamton, just below Syracuse, above the Pennsylvania line. It's changing a lot of the red areas into swing areas or blue. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to have one ideology and one party rule, especially if it's Democrat. Because in the end, people always go too far. So I wish Mr. Adams the best. I wonder how much they're going to nail him for checking the ballots. And see here, before I leave, I want to mention one more thing about elections and ballots. I ran in 4 different elections here in upstate New York. I was a city councilman in the early 2000s as a Democrat. I'm a Republican, currently switched in 2013. Now, in this county, in Broome County, I have to say they do it correctly. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. We fill out a paper ballot. We put it in the machine. The machine records our ballot, and they get the totals from the machines. But you always have a paper backup ballot. It's never just in the computer to be messed with or manipulated. There's absolutely zero chance. And these are all boxed up, and they're held for so many years. If you want to go back and do a recount, you go to the boxes that, in this case, I ran for city council. You would go who voted. You would take them out, and one by one, you would feed them a machine and recount them. Excellent. Excellent. The paper ballots are the safeguard. They are the check. But a lot of places don't do that. That's how these votes got in. Because there's no paper ballots to back them up. And God knows what else that can happen electronically. It's just not worth the chance to take our election system and have it be so untrustworthy. That's the number one reason how a republic disintegrates. Faith, I should say lack of faith in its electoral process. Ask anybody in Venezuela or any other communist countries or socialist countries or dictatorships what they think of the electoral process. So I wish you well, Mr. Adams. I hope that you get all the votes that were illegally gotten for you. And if you do make out, I hope you clean up New York. You got a hell of a job ahead of you. Maybe you should have stayed Brooklyn borough president. Until next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.